Hello everybody, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos. Well, only briefly for 2 minutes in this little introduction video. Yeah, welcome back for some more of the Sonic's Game Gear Marathon department for this month, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, today was actually forms of the 9th of August, City Venendo will discuss onto these things. Last time that I believe, Piglet now finally recently finished up with Sonic Chaos for the Sega Game Gear. And today for this particular video, ladies and gentlemen, and especially tomorrow actually, is the fact that it's now Twilight Sparkle's turn now in the form of Sonic Spinball for the Sega Game Gear. Now you guys are probably thinking that what about Sonic Triple Trouble that Mickey Mouse was supposed to tackle for that game? It turns out that there's going to be the game that we're going to be tackling through, or actually Twilight Sparkle's going to tackle through. That is usually called Sonic Spinball, as I mentioned earlier. That game is going to be the last game to be not only released on the Game Gear, but on the Master System. So even then though, that should be worth a while. And plus I think Sonic Spinball did came out before Triple Trouble's release, and even then though, I thought I might as well have to point things out for that one point. Plus, I have to be brutally honest here, we're not exactly ready for Triple Trouble yet, until when it gets to the point until when Mickey Mouse needs to practice the level design, and especially the Chaos Emeralds layouts. So even then though, that hopefully he'll get to that one day until the 11th of August. So don't worry, we'll get to that one day. So I digress. So yeah, in regards to the future parts of this particular video, ladies and gentlemen, it's just basically just more accurately Sonic Spinball time. So even then though, I had to be brutally honest here. Sonic Spinball for the Game Gear is not a great game, but even then, no, let's go say that much right now. So, yeah, I hope you guys do actually enjoy this Let's Play. So even then, on to you, Mrs. Princess Twilight Sparkle, the Princess of the Yellow Corn Ponies, to actually tackle through Sonic Spinball for the Sega Game Gear. Hey every pony, and everyone else for that matter, all the brownies out there, and I am Princess Twilight Sparkle, and I am from the Maxi Toys, as you guys should probably already know. And welcome back for some more of the Sonic's Game Gear Marathon department. This time around, we're going to be tackling through possibly one of the weakest games in the Sonic's Game Gear library games, known as Sonic Spinball for the Sega Game Gear / Sega Master System. But even then, I decided to say the Master System version as well. That's only because this game did manage to came around in 1994, around a year after the Mega Drive version's released. Which even then, that's a pretty decent game on the Mega Drive version. But even then, that's I'll discuss more details on the Mega Drive version as soon as we actually proceed to this version, or in this case, the ugly version of Sonic Spinball. I was gonna say that much right now. But I digress. So the plot in this game, it feels more likely identical to the Mega Drive version, but except the fact that Sonic's gonna jump off the plane instead of like getting shot in a plane, unlike the Mega Drive version. So I digress. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, or in this case, every gentle pony and lady pony out there, or the brownies out there, whatever you prefer calling it. Welcome to the first level in the game, much like the Mega Drive version. Now it's the form of Toxic Cave. So even then though, that's how it works for Sonic Spinball for the Sega Game Gear / Sega Master System. It plays exactly like how it does in the Mega Drive version, except you probably noticed right off the bat though, is that the physics themselves are completely off. And the game can get really weird when it comes to physics and even momentum going on. And this is easily one of the shortest Sonic games ever made, much like Sonic Chaos. Even though, except the fact that sometimes we occasionally do platforming. But if you ever played pinball before, you know exactly how Sonic Spinball actually works. All you have to do is just basically you have to like, well, just interact with the pinball table, and that's all you can really think about. But the difference is here this time is that since this is called Sonic Spinball rather than just a pinball table or anything like that, unlike the computer built-in game that you do actually come with in a laptop or even the latest software, is that the ultimate goal in this game is that you have to collect those certain Chaos Emeralds. Like for instance, there's one Chaos Emerald over to the top there, and all I have to get is basically I have to actually just you know, empty out this little poison green goop, which even then though, if you manage to go to these little 2 switches there, that way you should able to actually, you know, manage to, you know, get these green goop stuff off. So even then though, that should be worth a while though. As you can see in this middle right there, if you manage to hit to the middle right there, not only does it actually gives you a little bit of a jingle or anything like that, but instead you can actually manage to protect yourself in the bottomless pit down below, which can be really recommendable if you actually have yourselves a really hard time even just trying spinning onto the first half of this pinball machine, which even then, that's bizarrely enough though, however, this is the only Game Gear Sonic game I've actually recently completed. In this case, the first ever Game Gear Sonic games I've ever completed, which is so bizarre to me, which even then though, that's only because of how the fact that, you know, this game is really short, so even then though, that should be a lot of worth potential. So as you expected, the ultimate goal in this game is that you have to collect 3 different Chaos Emeralds, which for some reason it's all in blue for some reason. But even then though, the ultimate premise on this first level in the game, especially in the next level afterwards, is that we need to collect 3 Chaos Emeralds in total. And then until we get to the later levels, mainly due to the 4th level and the 3rd levels, that we need to collect like 5 or more emeralds. So I'm assuming it's more likely 5 most likely. So yeah, that's all I can really think about it. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, that a lot of Sonic fans may know that this is easily the worst version of Sonic Spinball, which I honestly agree to that. That's only because the fact that, look at the visuals, they look really bleak compared to the brilliant, colorful version on the Mega Drive version, which, speaking of such though, I'd like to point things out though, is that we would love to do Sonic Spinball Let's Play during sometime in November, but even then, we actually got ourselves Sonic 3D Fleeky's Island next, which should be up until next month, after when we actually finish this Let's Play, so even then though, or even the entirety of the Sonic's Game Gear Marathon, so even then though, that should definitely happen. So yeah, as far as when I experienced Sonic Spinball in general, that, as I mentioned earlier, that this is the version I've always attempted to complete all the time, unlike the Mega Drive version, because the Mega Drive version is actually a pretty decent game to me, but the only fortunate thing is that it gets progressively difficult, especially noticeable you have to deal with a lot of controlling Sonic all over the place, which, speaking of such, that occasionally you actually get yourselves a little bit of a platforming sections every once in a while, so even though sometimes platforming sections can either really mess you up at points, especially noticeable that, you know, the physics and momentum in this version of the game is actually screwed up, unlike how it does in the Mega Drive version, which even then, that's all because of how the fact that this is on the Game Gear, and it's not powerful enough. And also not to mention, in addition to the visuals themselves are actually feel completely bleak, the music itself is really unmemorable, which even then though, that, that doesn't seem to fit well on the Game Gear version, in this case, the Master System version as well. Because as I established earlier in the beginning of this Let's Play, is the fact that this game also came out on the Sega Master System, and much like Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and especially noticeable in Sonic Chaos, it's in Europe exclusive, so even then though, that if you guys lived in the United States of America or Japan, unfortunately you can't get this version anywhere in your countries. But only European countries can get that, quite frankly, which even then though, as far as I've heard, that in the 50Hz mode, in the PAL 50Hz mode, I digress, it runs really horrendously slow, which even then, the game itself is much more slower compared to how it does it in the Mega Drive version, so, I digress. So here we go, folks, on to the first boss in the game in, you know, Sonic Spinball for the Sega Game Gear in the Toxic Caves level. Basically, we have to bash Robotnik's face, like, let's say about 5 times in order to actually defeat him. So, the easiest method you can do is the fact that if you get onto this middle part, that way you're able to transport into this top section, and if you do that, then boss is done. So even then though, pathetically easy. So even then though, that's all I can really say about this here. So, that was it for Toxic Caves. So even then though, that's, you know, that's all I can really happen for it. So, excuse me. So, anyway, after when you finish the one of the regular levels, you actually transport into one of these occasional bonus areas. Now, unlike how it does in the Mega Drive version, in the bonus stages that you have to deal with this little pinball table in order to do this specific task, this version doesn't have this some sort of tradition of the pinball mechanic. Instead, it's going to be more accurately tons of bumpers and some occasional platforming sections if you want to go and grind for those item capsules, which even then, in order to actually activate the item capsule, which is kind of weird in this version, because all you have to do, you need to actually jump onto that capsule multiple times until the item starts to appear. So even then, items can be ranged from the 1000 points mark, or occasional 10 rings bonus, and even occasionally the time addition, which even then though, that in these types of bonus stages actually has a time limit. So I believe if you do not make it in nick of time, although strangely enough though, I found these bonus stages are really easy to finish, because even then though, you got plenty of time on this little time limit stuff. Because, by the way, the timer itself is actually counting so slowly, which even then, though, doesn't count way too fast, unlike how it does in the Super Mario Bros. Games. Well, specifically the first game in the series, and Super Mario Bros. 3, and even the lost levels as a result as well. So, yeah, when it comes to if you're actually trying to get these item capsules, they're entirely optional if you want to actually grind for those, but even then, that's only because I just want to show you guys about this. And sometimes you get yourselves the occasional extra life here and there as well, which even then, that way allows you to get yourselves an extra life. Perhaps the most rarest item you can get is actually forms of the continue. So that's why I went to the options menu at first glance before I start this Let's Play up. I managed to set the continues list into more accurately 3, because I'm usually a parkour at it, and plus I found this game is really easy for the most part, so even then though, you can actually breeze through this game for almost about 30 minutes or lesser than that, although it's all possible though if you want to actually do that technique. So that's it for the first bonus area done. Now we move on to level 2, Lava Powerhouse, which as you expected, there's going to be a lot of crazy contraptions here, like for instance this little launch counterpart, which actually allows you can actually launch onto those different diagonal positions and all that stuff. And by the way, be careful on the bottom because it contains the lava, which if you fell down to the pinball, then you'll lose a life. So even then, that's all there is to really expect to how the pinball itself actually worked. Because unlike in traditional pinball games, you only have like 3 balls in order to actually just to play the pinball machine like this. This game does have a life system, so even then, you don't get a game over until you actually proceed throughout. Because as far as I'm aware, because it's the action-adventure type of pinball game, but even then, yeah. Speaking of such though, is that as far as the name suggests, named Sonic Spinball, that's also a reference to something back in during 2010. Granted, it was almost like, well, I'm assuming 7 years older about it right now, which is about the same year as when the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic TV show is first premiered in the United States of America in 2010, around the same year, but in a different month to be small extent. Back in February, when Sonic and All Stars Racing first advertised on TV, specifically in UK, that's only because they did manage to announce there's going to be Sonic Spinball roller coaster in Alton Towers, which even then though, I found it kind of interesting to say the least, but even then though, unfortunately though, I haven't really exactly gone to that roller coaster, I don't think. That's only because we don't know exactly where the Alton Towers are, so because most of the time we just actually explore through Chessington World of Adventures, or even just Fort Park, and that's all we actually can say about this. So, anywho though, another thing is worth mentioning though, is the fact that, recently, that, we actually looked up on these new stuff on the My Little Pony the Movie 2017 version, which I'm super looking forward to that, since I'm Twilight Sparkle after all. Basically what they do now is the fact that they did recently launch a new video, which is actually forms of the first song they've ever going to be released on, which I believe is actually the Friendship for Festival or anything like that. But even then though, I'm really, the only thing I'm major concerned about this is the fact that I'm presuming the movie will, begins after the events of Season 7 was finished. But even then though, I will have to find this out during that time. In fact, speaking of such though, is that the second half of MLP FIM, in this case My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and the Discovery Family were about to make a return during a couple of days ago actually. So even then though, that what I found super strange about is that I've already seen episode 12 and especially episode 13 due to the Boomerang Australian version already got those 2 episodes first. So even then, it's nice to know of them. So anyways, that's it for that, and now I need to move on to the other side, so even then I can get ourselves the 3rd and the final Chaos Emerald before the boss fight starts. So even then, that should be worth a while to actually just to check it out. So yeah, for the most part, that the first 2 levels are pretty easy, but even then, because of, you have to find 3 Chaos Emeralds to be exact. But during the 3rd level and the 4th and final level, actually, which you're actually going to be getting, whoa, what the world? What entire nation is going on here? Sometimes the collision detection can be really unsettling at points, mainly due to the fact that because this game wasn't exactly as powerful as the Mega Drive version. That's only because Oh yeah, another difference is being between the you know, the Mega Drive version, the Game Gear version. On this level specifically, in order to actually get to this little chamber launch pad, is that you, in the Mega Drive version, you have to step on, or in this case, bounce onto those little bird enemies. But in the Game Gear version, you don't have to bounce onto those bird enemies at all. Which even then, that kind of seems to be more accurately different. So anyways, here we go to the next boss fight right here, which is actually phones off these 2 Robotnik heads. And if you do it like several times, mainly 5 hits in each of the 2 of them, then that's all you do in this fight. So even then though, I found it super odd about this is the fact that these boss battles are a total pushover unlike the Mega Drive version. Because in the Mega Drive version on this boss battle in particular, it started to actually increase one of those Robotnik heads, unlike the Game Gear version always stuck with 2. So I believe the Mega Drive version only contains like, I'm presuming 5 Robotnik heads. So even then though, excuse me. So even then though, that's all they usually, when it comes to the difference here, when it comes to those 2 versions. And of course, much like how it does it, as I established earlier, that this game came out in the Sega Game Gear and the Master System. The only difference between the 2 is actually the white, you know, the screen resolution. So I don't really think the screen crunch wasn't exactly too noticeable in this game this time around, at least from my experience though anyway. But there are some segments that if you want to actually just to explore the pinball machine all over the place, if you want to desperately need to find the you know, one of the Chaos Emeralds to be exact, you have to navigate for the maze and all that stuff. Sometimes you get have to find them. So even then though that, unfortunately this game doesn't have the map system. So even then though that you have to figure out which one is the correct path in order to actually see the Chaos Emerald is there or not. So, and also this version of the game does have some little bit of a secrecy. Like for instance, there's actually the extra 1-up icon, which allows you can give you an extra life. And even this weird language logo, which actually represents, I don't know if this is actually represents a code or anything like that. But even then, I'm not exactly a technical here though, every pony. But anyway, but I do know Button Mash, the little filly, did manage to already know this kinds of stuff. But even then, that he's still in Ponyville after all, and plays some video games from time to time. But anyways, enough about this stuff, and plus Spike is gonna look after Button Mash if I manage to go out in places and all that stuff with my newer friends like Mega Man, Sonic, and even my fiance Daffy Duck. So anyway, enough about this little topic. So here we go on to the second bonus level. Is that, oh my god, I'm getting bounced back by the bumpers. It's almost like a prequel to something related to, or in this case, a spiritual sequel to Sonic 1 special stages for the Game Gear. But even then, screw it. At first I thought I was going to get that item over there, but the game tells me, or the collusion detection think that, nope, I'm not going to let you get that item because, well, just can't be bothered. It's a bit odd there, considering. Anyways, now we move on to the third level in the game, the machine. As far as this level suggests, we're actually going to be exploring the machine itself. So, this is by far the easiest version of the machine level from the, between the Game Gear version and the Master System version. Or in this case, the Mega Drive version, if you will. That, number 1 is the fact that you can get the first Chaos Emerald right off the bat. Just such as so. Because of the physics and even the momentum in this version is a little bit too wonky at one point. And yeah, the look of the visuals on the machine itself is almost exactly feels identical to the Mega Drive version. Although except the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, some of these visual designs look a bit bleak compared to how it does in the Mega Drive version. So, but still, sometimes it doesn't seem to get too much worse about it, even though it's not as worse as the Emoji movie was. Oh my god, I despise that movie so much. Steven and that is by far the most disappointing film I've ever seen in my whole entire life. Even for the at least I expected, I would agree, if every ponies out there that, well, except where Pinkie Pie was so interested about this. But even then though, as far as when we actually did manage to finally see it, it's terrible. So even then though, that, yeah. Now I've heard from a lot of reviews, they seem to manage to give it like, although in Rotten Tomatoes, they for some reason now managed to give it like a 7% now, which at first I thought it was going to be 6% less. But even then, that will definitely gonna happen, because as far as I'm aware, it's basically a rip-off of, you know, Wreck-It Ralph and Inside Out, which was probably the most popular, probably the popular Disney film / Pixar film even to this day, because it's so original and really, really exciting it was. Because even then, I can watch those two films every day. So even then, rather than just watching that piece of crap. So anyway though, the next Chaos Emerald is going to be located onto this little item capsules, which if you destroy the one in the center, then that's how the Chaos Emerald's located. So even then though, wow, the frame rate on here is so horrendous. Which even then though, that seems mainly the case. Sometimes I constantly find myself kept pausing the actual GameCube controller support, because sometimes if I was trying to actually like skip the dialogue or message or what have you, like, you know, grabbing the Chaos Emerald and all that, you know, sometimes I just want to actually move on and just trying to actually get this over with. So, but yeah, as far as I mentioned earlier, that this game did manage to came around a year after the Mega Drive version, because, you know, in 1993, they got the Mega Drive version out of the way, and then in 1994, they got the Game Gear and Master System version. So, with that being said though, this might be the final Sonic game to be released on the Sega Master System, which even then though, until it gets to Sonic Triple Trouble and Sonic Drift eventually, those games will become a Game Gear exclusive title. So even then though, because, you know, you have to deal with these small resolution screens and all that stuff, so as far as I'm aware, that's all I can really describe about this. And here's our last emerald. So even then though, we managed to get those 5 Chaos Emeralds really fast. Although, unlike the Mega Drive version, that the getting these Chaos Emeralds when you come to this little alcoves and everything like that are really hard to get into. That's only because of how the fact that you have to be really precise with pinball physics and all that stuff, or even pinball mechanics and all that stuff. So, but even then though, in this version in particular, that you can actually manage to go whatever the way you want to go to. So, and now, since we got ourselves 5 Chaos Emeralds, because yes, in the machine itself is that we need to collect 5 Chaos Emeralds now, unlike the other 2 levels is that we need to collect like only 3 Chaos Emeralds. But in this level in particular, including the final level in the game, level 4, that we're hopefully going to get the final 5 Chaos Emeralds before we actually finish up with the entire game. So, as far as the maximum emeralds count, then I'm pretty sure we've only collected like, let's just say 11-ish type of Chaos Emeralds. But even then though, that very similar to the ones in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 for the Game Gear, they don't come with a different color. So even then though, they always stuck with the blue color, which I found was super odd. So anyway, here we go to the third boss in the game. Now this boss may be a little bit tricky because of the, you know, sometimes the physics and momentum can get really screwy in areas. But even then, all we have to do, you have to basically, we need to, not only we need to actually deal with these 2 ends at the top area of the actual arena, but you also have to deal with the inside part as well. So even then, the high suggestion in the first section is that we need to, oh, please be in the middle. Because yes, if you go onto either the left or right section of this little bottom area, you will get kicked out. So even then, speaking of such though, if you did manage to fall off into the pinball tables, into these boss arenas, you have to restart the whole entire fight again. So even then though, that take Topsy Caves and even Lava Powerhouse for example. If you accidentally fall off in a level, in this case fall off in the actual arena, you'll basically actually get kicked out the boss battle itself. Which as far as I'm aware, and especially noticeable in this level as well, that in the machine itself, that if you want to actually get to the middle, if you want to launch back up, that you have to simply have to get into the middle section. But if not, if you go over to the left or right type of tunnels, you basically get kicked out. So you just have to watch out. Anyways, that's these 2 rejectors out of the way. So now we need to deal with the inside parts. So even then, I believe the boss battle is called, there's actually forms of the machine itself. Although I don't know what specific boss's name, so even then I do apologize for this little lack of sense of direction of how the fact that the boss names are in different names. So, not that great though. And another thing is worth mentioning though, is the fact that I'm pretty sure Piglet already established earlier in Sonic Mania news that I was really excited about the, you know, Sonic Mania to be on its way at this point. In fact, we only got about 6 more days to go until that game is finally being released on the PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and even Xbox One and PC versions. So, I should be really excited for it. So, that I guess, enough about this little news and discussions out of the way. Yeah, there's not much else we can say about this here. Well, besides the fact that, you know, that, as far as I'm aware, that the reviews on the Emoji Movie is getting really, you know, really bad at the moment. And plus, there's a lot of negatives out of the way. So even then, though, as far as I'm aware, because, you know, it's a complete rip-off of, you know... I just wish that the Sony Pictures animation doesn't usually exist anymore. Which, even then, though, they decide to actually run out of ideas. Like, even then, though, it's when they decide to make for... I would say Zootropolis clone in the actual Sony animation pictures or something like that. I'm gonna quit on those, because even then, though, that sometimes... that, it doesn't work. It just doesn't seem to work. For, you know, the animations like this. Even then, like, Disney and Pixar are the most popular at the moment. Even DreamWorks as a result as well. But even then, that's all I could really matter about it anyway. So, anyway, I get ahead of myself there. So, once you defeat those, this machine alone, that you have to deal with, both sides of the inside part, like, a couple of amount of times. And the boss itself has been defeated. So here we go, folks, on to the third and the final bonus area in the entire game, which is kind of odd, because if you ever played the Mega Drive version, I'm assuming you actually get yourselves, I would say 4 bonus areas, well, 3 for the actual main ones, but the 4th and the final one, if you actually did manage to complete those specific times, or in this case, specific tasks, or anything like that. One thing I actually really liked about this bonus area is the fact that once you get to the next area, in this case, section 2 and 3, now, you're in underwater to begin with. If you think about trying to drown into the actual bonus area, but it turns out if you land on the ground, you're able to actually realize is that the water starts sinking. So even then, though, that, yeah, that's all I can really say about this. And speaking of such, though, in order to actually get to traverse into those different areas of the bonus areas, they need to constantly collect rings. And if you do that, then you're able to move on to the next set of few areas, which there are a grand total of 3 different areas of these bonus areas. So, that's as far as memories goes, ladies and gentlemen, and every pony out there, and even brony out there. That's all I can really say about these bonus areas, basically. So even then, I'm managed to breeze for this game quite literally fast. So with that being said, we have to end things off here. So joining me, Twilight Sparkle, next time, on Let's Play Sonic Spinball for the sake of Game Gear, is the fact we're going to finish up the entire game while we're actually going to be exploring for the final level in the game, known as Final Showdown. So even then, though, that once we're done with that, then this horrendous game will be over and done and over with. So, with that being said, every pony and bronies, so see you guys then, and until then, see ya.